I'm being honored for being one of 12 writers chosen to accompany scientists at the Pulse at Mount St. Helens Volcanic National Monument in Washington State. Every 5 years, scientists gather to study the changes since the 1980 eruption at Mount St. Helens, which was a devastating volcanic eruption. So it was the 30th anniversary of that eruption, and it's only the second time that a cohort of writers have gone with the scientists to work with them, to collaborate with them, and to understand through a writer's and humanistic point of view the meaning of catastrophe and renewal. And for me, it had a particular resonance with 9/11. So I was the only person there from New York City, and we went out every day on hikes into different parts of what they call the blast zone, which covers a variety of habitats. I learned a lot about the science, and the scientists gave us talks every night. And the first day we were there, we went to about 5 different locations, and many of the scientists and their graduate students presented their research, the highlights of what they were studying, and they were studying everything from soil to plants to birds to small mammals. And so I really learned a lot about the surprises. In other words, they didn't think that it would regrow so fast. They didn't think that that some of the habitats would regenerate, and I learned that some species survived while others went extinct, not extinct but were wiped out, depending on various conditions of nature, like snow cover could protect some species but would harm others. And there was a lot of tephra, which is a type of volcanic ash, and it came out in all different sizes and shapes, and so the area is covered with that, and it's covered with what they call standing dead, which are dead trees all over in what had been an old-growth Pacific Northwest forest. So it had a tremendous emotional impact on me to be there and to see the devastation and the new growth. It was very emotional, and for me it evoked 9/11, being that I live and work very close to Ground Zero, and I'll never forget that day. And so I had a feeling it would, I sort of, even before I went there, I just had this feeling, but it just enabled me to process 9/11. I haven't been able to really write about 9/11. I've had post-traumatic stress disorder, like many of us who live and work in the neighborhood. I can't look at pictures of 9/11. I mean, a lot of people have it a lot worse than I have it, but still, I have to say that as someone who lives in this community, I think we have had a unique experience that day. So just being there by the volcano and seeing the devastation, and how people who lived and worked in that area, how they felt when that happened, but then also the natural regrowth and regeneration, and is fascinating to see. And in that sense, I feel that 9/11 is a different story, and it's one about man-made change, and I have a lot of cynicism, and I'm not real happy with a lot of the rebuilding that's going on here and the fighting that's broken out over all sorts of issues. And for me, it should be a memorial more than anything else. And I feel like we haven't really processed that trauma yet of 9/11, and that's why we're seeing all these arguments and these emotional eruptions over the Muslim Community Center and other issues of late. That for me, it feels like there's a lot of open wounds, and seeing the natural disaster and how nature responds is really something. I've been working on some poems that juxtapose Mount St. Helens experience with my 9/11 experience, and that's really what it's been about for me. And as I was saying, I was the only person from New York City, and I think that I brought that sort of perspective to it, whereas all the other writers had, there were some writers that were local, like there was one woman who grew up and used to go to spend her summers as a child at Mount St. Helens, in that area where there were cabins and campgrounds, and she had memories of going boating with her family, and for her it was a very personal loss. And you know, then we had a husband and wife team who work on global warming issues at Colorado State, and so for them, they were thinking about how this could, how with global warming, with a volcano we have direct signs. It's very obvious when there's destruction, but they were saying with global warming, a lot of it is not as obvious. So like, do we need to have things blow up for us to believe that they're happening? So that it had a resonance for them in that way, and so for me, it had a resonance with man-made disaster versus natural disaster, and how they're both similar and different.